Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtupu. So text 24 of chapter 5, Canto 3. So we start by words in Sanskrit. Sa, Va, Esha, Tada, Drashta, Na, Apashyat, Drishyam, Ekarat, Mene, Asantam, Iva, Atmanam, Supta, Shakti, Asupta, Rik. Sava Esha Tada Drashta, Napashya Drishyam Ekarat, Mene Santam Ivatmanam, Supta Shaktir Asupta Drik. Sava Esha Tada Drashta, Napashya Drishyam Ekarat, Mene Santam Ivatmanam, Supta Shaktir Asupta Drik. Sava Esha Tada Drashta, Napashya Drishyam Ekarat, Mene Santam Ivatmanam, Supta Shaktir Asupta Drik.
Sava Esha Tada Drashta Napashya Drisham Ekarat Mene Santam Ivatmanam Supta Shaktira Supta Drik
Sava Esha Tada
Drashta
Napashya
Drisham Ekarat
Mene Santam Ivatmanam
Supta Shaktira Supta Drik
Sava Esha Tada Drashta Napashya Drishyam Ekarat Mene Santam Ivatmanam Supta Shakti Rasupta Drik.
Shava Esha Tada Drashta Napasya Drishyam Ekarat Mene Santam Ivatmanam Supta Saktira Supta Drik.
Sa, the personality of Godhead. Va, either. Esha, all these. Tada,
Tada.
At that time.
At that time.
Drashta.
Drashta.
The seer.
The seer.
Na.
Na.
Did not.
Did not.
Apashyat.
Apashyat.
See.
See.
Drishyam.
Drishyam.
The cosmic creation.
Cosmic creation.
Ekarat.
Ekarat.
Undisputed proprietor.
Undisputed proprietor.
Mene.
Mene.
Thought like this.
Thought like this.
Asantam.
Asantam.
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
Eva.
Eva.
Like that.
Like that.
Atmanam.
Atmanam.
Plenary manifestations.
Plenary manifestations.
Supta.
Supta.
Unmanifested.
Unmanifested.
Shakti.
Shakti.
Material energy.
Material energy.
Asupta.
Asupta.
Manifested.
Manifested.
Drik.
Drik.
Internal potency.
Internal potency.
Translation. The Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. The cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, and thus he felt imperfect without his plenary and separated part and parcels. The material energy was dormant, whereas the internal potency was manifested. Purport. The Lord is the supreme seer because only by his glance did the material energy become active for cosmic manifestation. At that time, the seer was there, but the external energy, over which the glance of Lord is cast, was not present. He felt somewhat insufficient, like a husband feeling lonely in the absence of his wife. This is a poetic simile. The Lord wanted to create the cosmic manifestation to give another chance to the conditioned souls who were dormant in forgetfulness. The cosmic manifestation gives conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. And that is its main purpose. The Lord is so kind that in the absence of such a manifestation, he feels something wanting, and thus the creation takes place. Although the creation of the internal potency was manifested, the other potency appeared to be sleeping, and the Lord wanted to awaken her to activity, just as a husband wants to awaken his wife from the sleeping state for enjoyment. It is the compassion of the Lord for the sleeping energy that he wants to see her awaken for enjoyment like the other wives who are awake. The whole process is to enliven the sleeping conditioned souls to the real life of spiritual consciousness so that they may thus become as perfect as the ever liberated souls in the Vaikuntha Lokas. Since the Lord is Sachit Ananda Vigraha, he likes every part and parcel of his different potencies to take part in the blissful rasa, because participation with the Lord in his eternal rasa lila is the highest living condition, perfect in spiritual bliss and eternal knowledge. Om Ainana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravan Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paske Pyadesha Hari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrida. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So we are reading the text 24, Canto 3, Chapter 5. Vidura is still talking with Maitreya, and Maitreya, he began to develop on those 4 seed verses. So these are the seed verses basically set in different words. So we have the Bhagavad Gita, and there Krishna himself directly says the 4 seed verses. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, that's the beginning. So Krishna says, I'm the source. And here we also get the understanding that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, and he is the source. He is the source of what? Here we get to know that he is the source of the cosmic manifestation. And we can actually like see this same theme, the same thought or the same principle appearing in different places. Like I already mentioned Bhagavad Gita. Then we have it here, and then in other place in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the core 4 seed verses. Aham eva sam eva gre naniyat sat asat param. So that's the similar thing that is described. Krishna is the absolute truth, is the cause which does not have any other cause. So that's the supreme cause. And in the last days, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada giving class on the verses spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. So that's the 7th canto. So I want to read at least translation of those verses, at least a few of them, because there is a similar theme, there is a similar thought. So Prahlad Maharaj says, it's Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 30. And he says, my dear Lord, you alone manifest yourself as the entire cosmic manifestation, for you existed before the creation, you exist after the annihilation, and you are the maintainer between beginning and the end. All this is done by your external energy through actions and reactions of the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, whatever exists externally and internally is you alone. Then there is text 31. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the entire cosmic creation is caused by you, and the cosmic manifestation is an effect of your energy. Although the entire cosmos is but you alone, you keep yourself aloof from it. The conception of mine and yours is certainly a type of illusion, Maya, because everything is an emanation from you and is therefore not different from you. Indeed, the cosmic manifestation is non-different from you, and the annihilation is also caused by you. This relationship between your lordship and the cosmos is illustrated by the example of the seed and the tree, or the subtle cause and the gross manifestation. I will read one more. This is text 32. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, after the annihilation of the creative energy is kept in you, who appear to sleep with half-closed eyes. Actually, however, you do not sleep like an ordinary human being, for you are always in a transcendental stage, beyond the creation of the material world, and you always feel transcendental bliss. As Karana Dakashai Vishnu, you thus remain in your transcendental status, not touching material objects. Although you appear to sleep, this sleep is distinct from sleeping in ignorance. So that's the same theme. same idea that Krishna is the source. Krishna is the source, and the same thing is said by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita. Yakaranarnava bhajate Yakaranarnava jale bhajati sma yoga nidram ananta jagadanda saruma kupa adhara shaktim avalambe param smamurtim govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. So if the same idea appears in so many different places, it seems that it's somewhat important. So why it's important? Because it has very serious implications. For example, here we get to know from Maitreya that the Lord is the undisputed proprietor of all things. So there's the same thing actually as in Shri Ishopanishad. That's the same thing. Ishavasya idam sarva. Isha, the Lord. And it helps us to create a proper understanding of the Lord, of the Supreme Absolute Truth, because based on that we can develop an appropriate stance. Because if everything belongs to Krishna, it might be nice if I act according to that reality. Because if I do not, as we experience in this world, I suffer. I suffer because I'm trying to enjoy things that are not mine to be enjoyed. So important principle. Like I was listening to Prabhupada the other day, and he said, like, he said something like, just understanding that Krishna was playing in Vrindavan is not enough. So we need to also develop the philosophical understanding, and that's the understanding of what's the nature of this world, who am I, what's the purpose of life, and the understanding begins with the first seed verse. And yes, and that Krishna is the cause of all causes. That also means that he is the proprietor, and this understanding has then implications. Then yes, so, and here we get a description of a moment when the material cosmic manifestation is not present, like the cosmos is hidden within the Karanot, the Kashai Vishnu, including the living entities who are in a state of deep sleep. And here we have described like the feelings of Krishna in a sort of playful way. So it's like Krishna feels that something is missing, like we can say that there is no missing, because everything is complete in him, because Krishna is the complete whole. At the same time, like he was experiencing this feeling, because the living entities did not have a chance to connect with their Sachitananda Sachitananda nature. So he creates this world in order for the living entities to connect with their true nature. So that's the response to the question, like why this universe takes place. That's basically the purpose of science, like on a smaller scale, to identify various causes and effects, but ultimately we should strive to understand what's the cause of all causes. That should be the highest goal of science. Yes, like a few weeks ago, we had a program at our house, and I had a class, and someone who came, like maybe it was her like first Bhagavad Gita class. She asked, like, why do we exist? It's like why Krishna needs us, right? And it was like an interesting question, because I did not have a response. Like, that's like, why are things the way they are? That's like a kind of difficult question. But then my wife responded something, and it worked. But still like, I try to search, like, what's Srila Prabhupada's response to, like, why like there is like the God, the supreme absolute truth. And like in one conversation, I found that Srila Prabhupada responded like that first, we should understand the cause. So maybe I would say, like, why not? If someone asks, like, why Krishna like created us, if he's like self-sufficient, like maybe my first response would be, why not? And then maybe first we should understand how things are, and then we can progress further, because still I should understand like how things are. So that was quite something. Yes. And a few days ago, on Tuesday, we visited Govinda restaurant in Prague, in a capital city. So it was like a 40-minute drive just to take lunch. I was like, are we really going to do this, like driving for 40 minutes somewhere just to get lunch? But still, we did that. And like after that, like I wanted to visit a local cemetery. It's like an it's like a quite old place in Prague. It's like in the middle of the city, so it's quite a big park, and in the middle there are some like really nice quiet places, and it was an interesting contrast between like the busy world outside of the graveyard and like being just there with the trees and the stones, like with the names of like people who died like 170 years ago. And yes, like, and it seemed like if a person had some success in his life, like from the society point, he had a big stone, right? Big stone, big name. Yeah, and the stone, like the tombstone, if it was well made, it looks the same, even like 170 years after that. But still, like for example, I saw a stone, like a tombstone with names, like those like 100 years old, and there was a tree, and the tree was growing, and yes, and of course, like the tree grows very slowly, but over the years, the tree grew big, and then the tree was such big that the tombstone started to fall. So it was like, yes. So I don't think that in like maybe 50, 70 years, the tombstone will be there. So yeah, and like we can ask the question, will the graveyard be there in like 1,000 years? Like maybe. But in the end, we know that in like few million years, it will not be there because of Brahma's night, actually. So that one will be destroyed too. So, and it's like a interesting experience, like be busy in the life with so many things, and still like seeing that it ends for all of us the same way from the perspective of the body. So one gets a name on the tombstone, and then he gets some dates of birth, a date of death, and that's basically it. So here in the text, so we have the internal potency, and that's that one is always with Krishna. And then we have the separated potency, which is sometimes unmanifested. Here is the word supta. Supta means sleeping. So that's maybe why Prabhupada in the purport talks about sleep. So at some point, the material potency is sleeping, and at other points it's manifested. And yes, what does it mean, like the separated potency? Like because at some point, like we could hear that in those Prahlad Maharaj's verses, there is nothing separated from Krishna. Like everything is part of Krishna. And from the other point of view, separated, it's like Prabhupada gives many examples. Separated means it's not connected. So if I like Prabhupada gives the example of if I record my voice, so then the voice recording is separated from me. So you can take the recording and play it. At the same time, it will be not me. But you could say it's you, but it's not you. It's some representation. So in the same way, the material world is like a shadow of the spiritual world. There is like some sense. At the same time, it's just a shadow. So separated is something like in Bhagavad Gita, like the 5 and 8 Bhumir apo nalo vayu kamano buddhir evacha ahankara utyame bina prakriti astada. So there's the bina, there's the separated energy from Krishna. So that's earth, water, fire, air, ether, intelligence, mind, and false ego. That's the separated stuff, and it's like a shadow of the real stuff. It looks real, and we could say it's real, but it's not, because at some point it's destroyed, and also we tend to find enjoyment in those things. I was listening to Shah Prabhupada class just few moments ago, and he was saying that we are always excited for something. So unless I am depressed, I could say that I'm like always excited for something, and the goal is to become excited for the real thing. So we have a choice to either seek enjoyment in those forms that do not last, or we can try to seek enjoyment in something that lasts. So that's our choice, and this creation is for that. Like we get some understanding that it's not fun to try to enjoy by ourselves. There is quite some pain, and okay, some people try to get rid of enjoyment, but that will not last as well, because we are meant for enjoyment. So the way is to enjoy from a proper perspective of being the secondary enjoyer, because the first primary enjoyer is Krishna. Why? Because of the seed verses, because he's the proprietor of everything. He's the cause of all causes. So that's basically the source of the whole understanding of devotional service. It's the understanding that the Lord is the cause of all causes, is the proprietor, is the maintainer. Yes, and that's the basis of the Vedanta philosophy. Hare Krishna. So I will read the verse once more. Tava esha tada drashta na pasya drishyam ekara mene santam ivatmanam sukta shaktir asukta drik. The Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. The cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, and thus he felt imperfect without its plenary and separated parts and parcels. The material energy was dormant, whereas the internal potency was manifested. Hare Krishna, thank you for your presence, for your listening. And now is the time. Now is the time to ask questions, to share what you want to share. Hare Krishna. Yes, Malini.
I think Garuda Prabhu unmuted himself before I raised my hand. And I prefer Garuda Prabhu to ask his question.
Okay, Garuda Prabhu, do you want to ask or say something?
Hare Krishna, good morning. I actually accidentally unmuted, but I do want to share that I really appreciate your class, and you always seem to really put a lot of energy into digging into the particular topic and bringing to the surface like where all this particular topic is found. And so I just really appreciate your just effort in that. And yeah, it's pretty significant, Krishna, being the proprietor of everything, and like, living life from that paradigm is, it's so much different from how I know that I've lived most of my life. And I can see when I, live life that, there's not that high a percentage of the population that is living from that paradigm. So it's so much different. So I don't know, I'm just kind of really sitting with that more. I know I've like heard this time and time again, but it's still like, the world that I live in is completely opposite of that. So it's so easy to be pulled back into a different way of showing up in the world and living. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I am very glad that you were experiencing some excitement from my talk. It's like the goal, right? To get excited about some part of the Bhakti Yoga. And yes, like if I can get excited about something, it's about digging those different things up. Yes, yeah. And like I experienced myself like maybe on a similar place as you. Like, yes, like I can also like read every day, like Krishna is the proprietor. And still, I probably spent like most of my day like thinking that I'm the proprietor. Yeah, and like yes, and it's still like, even though I do not feel excited about it, sometimes I'm just saying, oh, it's such a nice way, like it's such a nice philosophy, because it dissipates dissipates, like the fear, anxiety, like the trying to control, which is uncontrollable, actually. So yes, I'm also in the process, and like thanks to Shah Prabhupada, we get to like we get to read it at many different places. Like it's said in so many different words, and by so many different devotees in their own like original way. So maybe at least like once it will sink in. And yes, Hare Krishna. So, Mother Malini.
Thank you for class, Yogesvara Prabhu. I really like that point about excitement. I can see in my life until recently, there was always something new to be excited about. And, you know, it was not necessarily material, but still that energy of the carrot, you know, soon there will be something to hold on to, or soon there will be that energy I was tired of it. Spiritually or materially, in a sense, both, you know, like, a new program or something, you know, something to be excited about. And you know, it's an energy that can be very easily devoted in Krishna consciousness. And for the last 2 years, it's kind of left me. And I'm quite happy about it. And so I appreciate, because, you know, Krishna consciousness, there is an excitement, but it's not that same excitement than the carrot excitement. Yeah. So that's one point I wanted to make. And then Krishna is the proprietor, and how peaceful it is to realize that and like last night I was reading in Saint Teresa of Avila's biography, and she said sometimes she really goes into advice, really strong advice, like you should. And he said, you shouldn't be stopped by the working of your mind. That's always, you know, like, you know, maybe dry, spiritually dry, or materially excited or whatever. And because she says, like, God is a proprietor of that too. So serve for his pleasure, and whatever your mind is making or not making, don't try to stop it, or don't try to put too much emphasis on it. So it was really nice to hear that. I have a technical question. Are you ready for it? It's quite technical. Yeah.
Like it depends on the question. But yes, I'm pretending that I'm ready to look spiritual.
Okay, so we look at creation and the cosmic manifestation. It's seen from 2 points of view, and then I try to put those 2 points of view together. So one point of view is Krishna expanding into, you know, like Vasudev, Sankarshan, and Yehuda, Pradyumna, you know, the Chaturvyuha, and then Narayan, Chaturvyuha, and then Shankarshan, and then Mahavishnu. Yeah. And then, okay, from the Mahavishnu come all the universe. And then there is the other way that's really presented a lot in the Bhagavatam too, is that the Mahavishnu eternally breathes in and out, and is in the slumber of Yoga Nidra, sleeping, and is breathing. And every time he breathes out, he breathes all the universe, he breathes and infuse in a Mahatattva, infuse living entities. And when he breathes in, then everything is wind back in a dormant stage inside his body. Okay? And from the previous purport, it says that there is an existence that exists also eternally, and that's eternal, and there is two eternity, which is before even Karnadakashayi Vishnu. So before Mahavishnu, there is Krishna, and then Mahavishnu is eternally manifesting and breathing in and out. So that's the technical question. Because like here, sometimes when we hear like Krishna manifesting the cosmic manifestation out of his free will, and even when he speak to Brahma in a second canto, Aham Eva Gray, anyways, that verse, is he speaking about himself, Krishna? Is he speaking about Mahavishnu? It's not always very clear to me.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, like you mentioned like three things, but I will start with the last thing because now it's in our minds, like absorbed. Yes, like my guess would be like it's a guess. Like I think that like the confusion comes because we have an material idea about the spiritual world. So because everything is eternal in the spiritual world, at the same time, like something can be manifest from something else, but it does not mean that like it's created at some point. Like that's like my idea is like there is a hierarchy of things, like this thing comes from that thing, but that does not mean like in the material sense, which is influenced by time. Because if it's influenced by time, it means like first I have like the first thing, and then at some point it's created another thing. Then at some point it's created another thing. But in the spiritual world, everything exists at the same time, always. So I think part, maybe like most of the confusion comes from like the time conception imposed on the spiritual world.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, like it
Yes.
does have something to do like with time. And then, there is different part, like, okay, so Krishna, say he existed before the Mahavishnu, at least Prabhupada says that in a purport. And then the Mahavishnu, and at the same time, those souls that have desire to enjoy separated from Krishna, they are wind up inside Mahavishnu, and they need to stay in a material realm because nothing can be in a spiritual realm with any contamination. So it's an interesting, meditation to see, okay, well, how does that match together, that before Mahavishnu, but is it like, oh, there was no prisoner at one point, but no, there is always prisoner, and then Krishna's will out of his desire to enjoy like an inferior wife in a sense, like Prabhupada's example in this purport about he wants to enjoy a wife like a husband, and he have many wives that are always awake, but there is one dormant, and she's like an inferior wife, but I'm going to still enjoy with her because he's merciful and like that.
Yes, it's like coming to like the eternal vision, like because like we tend to think in a certain way because everything around us is influenced by time. So we are always thinking in terms of like creation, growth, sustenance, deterioration, and death. And then there is the other way of like seeing things where like everything is moving and at the same time there is no time. And I do not have like an explanation. It's like, okay, let's just be with it. Yes.
It's meant for us to meditate on it. And that's perfect, as we put our mind and meditate there, then it becomes timeless. And then if Krishna wants to reveal, he will reveal to us.
Yes, and it's like beyond. It's like beyond the material intelligence and the material senses and the material mind. So it makes sense. It's like inconceivable, So just there, just be with the inconceivable. And you mentioned like before that, like the excitement. Yeah, like it's such a tricky thing to like just be in the circle of being like excited about like a new thing, and like just developing some new thing in order to get like the juice of excitement. Like I like my wife's brother just bought a new car, you know, and like he has like his reasons, sort of like, but I can sense like it's like the new thing, like, and I also like try to not try, but I do that, like trying to like because I feel uh, pain, let's say, maybe I'm depressed, and so I'm having something external to like put myself in the illusion that after I get this new thing, that it will be great. And like it's also a great facility of the living entity, because we get the excitement just based on hope. I do not need to get the thing, right? I just have the hope, and I can be joyful about it already. So we can utilize this facility and connect with the hope of being Krishna conscious. And then we get excited about being Krishna conscious without necessarily being fully pure. So yeah, it's like a tricky. And I think that's also like why there are so many verses that like explain these intricacies. Because the devil is in the detail, of course. Often. Hare Krishna. Anandini.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Yogesvara. I feel excited about what you shared and the discussion. And what I'm thinking about is like trying, I'd like to understand more. You mentioned about this visitor who asked, why did God make us? Why do we exist? And then the response, why not? And what I understand from Bhagavad Gita is that God, Krishna, he didn't make us. We were never made. You know, like from this, yeah, like what's the verse? Like there never was there a time where you and I didn't exist, and never will there be a time when we don't exist. So he didn't make us, and also material nature is eternal, time is eternal. It's so that's my understanding is this, it wasn't created. It just, all of that just existed. And at the same time, there's this description of creation. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first seed verse, I looked it up here, and Srila Prabhupada speaks like God is speaking, the personality of God is speaking to Brahma, and Brahma was created by the Supreme Personality. So I have this question: what does creation mean?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you feel excitement. And yeah, like you are right. Like if the question is like why we were created, the response can be like we were never created, and it's great. Like yes, yeah. Like the question on the session was like why we are. Stop. Like why things are as they are. Like why there is like God, why there is like living entities, why the God is not like self-sufficient himself, like why he needs us, and like that kind of response. Yes, yes, and like the question about the creation is like creation of the body, basically. So everything that's like created pertains to the body. So if like the scripture says that Brahma was created, it means like he was embodied, like the living entity received body of Brahma, basically. So that's the creation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And I have a comment also that what came out for me in your speech and your sharing is that, yeah, like it seems Krishna misses us, like each one of us, when we're not in a loving relationship with him. Like the purport ends with like everyone joining the rasa dance. And so that's, yeah, I find that really sweet to think that Krishna misses each soul who is not in a loving, conscious, loving, devotional relationship. I like that. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for like emphasizing this personal relationship and a personal feeling, like a unique personal feeling for every living entity. Because after I read, okay, like he's the owner of everything, of the whole universe. There is not one universe. There are uncountable number of universes. Like, what's then like his feeling? Like, if I have in the material world like a big boss, right? A big boss in a big company. And like, what's his feeling towards like the street sweeper, right? He does not even know his name, right? But here, like, that's the quality of Krishna. That he has like a personal relationship with like each and every living entity. So I'm grateful that you are pointing that out. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, much appreciating your class and the discussion, and yeah, the different points for me seem to very much interrelate. Like, well, why do things exist as they do? Why did Krishna create us? And yeah, I appreciated your response that, yeah, like the material forms, including the forms of the body of Brahma, they are created, and they go through the 6 stages, beginning and an end. But the spirit soul that's currently serving in the post of Brahma, that's not created. Prabhupada when Prabhupada makes those distinctions, he'll say, we can say the souls emanate, just like there was Anandini referred to the verse, Natvevaham jatuna sam natvam name janadipa, nacheva na bhavishyama sarvevayamatat param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings on the battlefield, nor in the future will we ever cease to be. So there's no creation for the spirit soul, whether it's the supreme spirit soul or the jiva soul. At the same time, there was never a time that the sun globe existed without the sun rays. At the same time, it's true to say the sun rays emanate from the sun. So Prabhupada will say that, properly speaking, the spirit souls emanate from the sun. At the same time, the spirit souls exist eternally with Krishna, with the son of Krishna. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar. Krishna is like the sun, Maya is like darkness. And then as far as the why, there are those aphorisms in the Vedas. Well, Ananda Mayobhyasat. The nature of spirit is to expand bliss. Eko Bahusham. So I like the way you describe the analogy. Prabhupada gives the husband-wife analogy like that. And so Prabhupada uses the terminology, he felt somewhat insufficient, like a husband feeling lonely in the absence of his wife. So somewhat insufficient. So of course Krishna is Atmarama. So Krishna is completely satisfied. There's nothing missing. So in the material world, when we're feeling lacking and lonely, and okay, then it's material, and it increases our forgetfulness of who we are as spirit soul servant of Krishna. So Krishna is self-sufficient, doesn't need us. But then, as Anandini highlighted that part of the purport, at the same time, Krishna experiences a sort of spiritual lack that deepens love, It's not like a material depression or material loneliness or material jealousy. The Krishna experience is a sort of spiritual, like even though Krishna is completely self-satisfied there with the cowherd boys and the gopis in Vrindavan and in the Vaikuntha plan, it's completely self-satisfied. And because we're not joining him in the Rasa Leela, he's feeling some insufficiency. He's feeling some insufficiency. So we can say, not that we were created, but we exist to expand the bliss of God. God's completely self-sufficient. And on the spiritual platform, there's complete, more complete into infinity. It's described the love for the gopis and Krishna and the gopis is increasing 1,000,000 times at each moment. So it's not like we're catching up, okay? So, so this is, for me, yeah, so we have an opportunity. So Krishna doesn't need, in the material sense of being needy, he doesn't need us. And at the same time, we were emanations from Krishna. We exist to contribute to the expansion of his bliss, and to the extent that we surrender to that role, then our natural bliss awakens. And if we choose not to, Krishna is self-sufficient. Still, he really wants us to contribute to his expanding bliss by joining the Vrindavan pastimes. We have that opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your points. Like that expands my repertoire of responses and also my understanding. Yeah, like we exist because the nature of spirit is to expand, like to expand the bliss. That can be a response, right? Yes. And yeah, like emanation, like it's a strange word in a sense, at least yeah, for me. And it's like a description of cause and effect without the dimension of time. So it's not like created, because created means there is like a dimension of time. Then at some point it wasn't, and then it was. Emanation is more like, it's like the cause and effect. At the same time, both are eternally present, which is like beyond our material experience, right? Because it's like very difficult to like grasp it in a sense, because it's like out of the box.
Like what move everything in the material world is time. No, time is what's moved, like agitate the three modes of material nature, and what move things in the spiritual world is bhakti, love, or Krishna's enjoyment. There is an energy that moves things. It's not like it's nothing static, but because we have our only concept of what move is time. So we want to project time on the spiritual world, but without the time, we don't know what can be moving things. But it's not like things are not moving or expanding or changing or progressing, but they are not progressing based on time, like what we know. They are progressing based on love and enjoyment of Sri Krishna. And that's the energies that move everything.
Nice. Yes. Thanks for that, because I tend to have the idea, okay, if I say that there is no time in the spiritual world, that means like everything is like stopped there, like it's stale, it does not move. And there's like the impersonalist idea, like the voidist idea. If I get rid of time, then everything stops. But you point out like there is like progress, there is movement, there is in a sense change, but it's not like a change as we know it. There's like a development, and the development is the development of love, relationships, feelings. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class.
Haribol. Ano, yes.
I have a response in my mind, going through my mind of how to respond to the question. The question, why do we exist? How can we exist? And it was just like just using logic, and I think that can be like maybe grounding or connecting to people. So using logic, we can see that in the effect, like us, we have personhood, and so therefore it's plausible that the cause has personhood. Starting from that, like if the cause has personhood, then we can imagine, because we experience personhood, so we know what that's like, that there's a preference for preferences in personhood, and we can experience the preferences we have as people is to have relationship that's more enjoyable than being completely alone or having no thoughts of nothing and no activity and no interaction. We can understand that, and so we can imagine that in the cause of like whatever brought us into existence, there's personhood, there's preference, and there's preference for relationship. And so this source chose personhood and chose relationship, and so that's just like using logic that can be relatable. That would be my response. I just like to share.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, it's like one other important, like basic principle, Janma Adhyasya Yataha. For what's present in the cause must be also present in the what's present in the result must also be present in the cause. Yes, and I definitely get that it can resonate with someone as a response for that question. Yes, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just that principle, Janma Adhyasya Yataha, as Damayanti sharing by Prabhupada emphasizes this point a lot. By studying ourselves, we can understand about Krishna. By studying ourselves, we can understand about Krishna. At least that's one method through our own introspection. Yeah, what exists in the effect. So, yeah, I want relationships. The source must be. I'm seeking happiness. I'm seeking knowledge. I'm seeking to serve, like that. Hare Krishna.
Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai,
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a blissful day in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.